we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time listening, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, wherever you're listening, please follow along in the podcast. You can always follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening to it, or if you are watching us on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next episode comes out, and share with your friends. If you ever wanted to support the podcast, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpodcast. And like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to us, drop us a line, let us know a topic, let us know anything, something about it, about how you feel, whatever it is. Check us out on Twitter or Instagram at the Bigmark Pod or at the Bigmark Podcast. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited about today's episode because it's actually a topic that I was meaning to do for a long time, ever since I saw the movie for the first time. And what's today? March 13th, I think. March 14th, 2023. The 95th Oscars were just the other night. And this movie brought in huge numbers. It's Everything Everywhere All at Once, if anyone's ever seen it. If not, please go see it. I'll drop it right now. Drop fat spoiler warnings all over this puppy right now. If you haven't seen the movie, go check it out. I mean, if not, there might be spoilies. So you've been warned. But this movie cleaned up at the past Oscars. And again, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Check it out. It's on Prime, I believe, Amazon Prime streaming. But it came out in 2022, obviously, last year. And it's an A24 film. If you're not familiar with that production company, they did Ex Machina, Moonlight, Uncut Gems, etc. And it was directed by the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. I think that's how you say it. Scheinert, I think. They directed Swiss Army Man. This is their second major feature, which is amazing that they killed it at the Oscars. The cast is phenomenal. I mean, it's not a very large cast. When I was like looking at it, they reused a lot of like extras, and it's very, very cool, very well done. But standouts, obviously Michelle Yeoh. She plays Evelyn in the movie. Stephanie Hsu, she plays Joy. Tremendous. Ke Huy Quan played Waymond. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Again, everyone was just tremendous. Jamie Lee Curtis played Deirdre, which is like the IRS kind of like baddie, like bad person. I guess she was a baddie. Jenny Slate makes an interesting appearance. She's in the portion of the beginning and the portion of the end, and she is billed in the credits as Big Nose. So shout out fellow person with a big nose. But classic Jenny Slate, good for her. Hey, she's in an Oscar-winning movie, because at this past Oscars, the 95th Oscars that just happened, they won 7 out of 11 categories that they were nominated. Won Best Picture, won Best Original Screenplay, Best Director, Best Editing, Best Actress. Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress. She was actually the first Asian female to ever win, which is absolutely phenomenal. She did such a great job in the movie. I mean, I love Michelle Yeoh. She haven't seen every single one of her movies, but she was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, if anyone hasn't seen that, and oh my gosh, just phenomenal in this. Actually, I saw that movie in theaters. Funny enough, me and my dad went to see that movie. I think I was like about 11, and it was I from my recollection, the first movie I had ever really seen with subtitles. I believe the whole movie was subtitles. Nothing was dubbed. amazing movie visually, but the first time I saw it, I was too focused trying to read the subtitles. I barely like watched what the actual happenings of the movie. So I have watched it since, but again, she's phenomenal, and she's an amazingly talented martial artist. Like, oh my gosh, Kung Fu, unbelievable. She's so good. And again, excellent. Congratulations. Great for her. Best Actress award. Best Supporting Actor went to Ke Huy Quan. Good for him. Or yeah, anyway, sorry. I'm sorry about my pronunciation, K, because you're phenomenal. Obviously, we all know Kay from movies like The Goonies and Encino Man, which is amazing, with the actual best actor of this year, Brendan Fraser, who won Best Actor for The Whale this year. He actually was in a movie with Ke Huy Quan called Encino Man. Pauly Shore is in it as well. Sean Astin, of Lord of the Rings fame. Or else than that, one of my favorite movies. I remember growing up watching that one. I don't know. I might even do a whole episode on it, but short synopsis is about these high school kids find a caveman that's still frozen in ice in their backyard when they go to dig their pool out. Far-fetched, I know, but Brendan Fraser is the caveman, and then Kay is one of the high school students. Amazing. Again, Goonies, Data, tremendous. And my favorite Ke Huy Quan role, Short Round, in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Phenomenal. I'll never forget it. Never forget him. When I first saw that he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, because I believe he's taken quite a hiatus, at least from like mainstream film. And to see him again, I instantly recognized him, and so exciting to see. And it's his presence in some ways touches on one of the beautiful things about this movie, which I'll get into shortly. Is it's a je ne sais quoi, some type, like there is an unspoken nod to nostalgia in this movie, and it's beautiful, and it's very interesting, and it's very subtle and very well done by the Daniels. And again, even Jamie Lee Curtis's presence, because she actually won Best Supporting Actress, but even her presence alone becomes somewhat of a nod to, like the 80s and everything. She kind of ruled that. But Kay's performance was well deserved. I mean, I know I haven't seen every movie this year or last year that was nominated, but he deserves Best Supporting Actor all the way. He did a fantastic job. I will go deep into his character's stance and where he was coming from, but he portrays it beautifully. Very well done, sir. And Best Supporting Actress went to Jamie Lee Curtis, which is excellent. I'm so happy that she has won an Oscar. I'm not sure if she's won any other Oscars, but she's been in some other great movies, and just great for her. But it is unfortunate. Sadly, I'll say it right now on the Bigmark podcast that she robbed the Oscar from Stephanie Hsu. Stephanie Hsu's performance in this movie, people, for those of you who have watched it, because you're probably still listening because you made it past the spoiler warning. Her performance is so fucking good. It's amazing she didn't win the Oscar. I don't really understand it, actually. I rewatched the movie preparing for this, and I just got finished watching it, and such a powerful, captivating, dynamic performance, just absolutely beautiful. Didn't go over the top. costume design was so cool. I'm not sure. I think that was actually one of the categories they were nominated for and didn't get. But the rest of the film's attire is relatively plain. But her character that she plays is fucking cool, and she has wicked costumes. A little bit more about the film itself. Again, like I said, there's something about it. It's just an X factor, a subtle, nuanced nod to nostalgia and things that passed. Great cinematography overall, really cool. I mean, generally speaking, they had a relatively low budget, and with that, a lot of practical effects are used. Really interesting filmmaking techniques that aren't particularly expensive, but have amazing effects. Aspect ratio shifts, they change the aspect ratio. So like for those of you who don't know, the border of the screen essentially is the aspect ratio. So, it used to be like square screen, but the cinema screen essentially is like, I think like 16:9 aspect ratio or something like that, where it's like it's a rectangle. But then, like, you can squash that, with it looks like there's two black bars. But what that does is it changes your kind of focus and it changes how you actually perceive the film. So again, that's a practical effect that the directors chose to do, which lends an effect to the audience, and or they experience that. And the more you can get the audience to experience, the cooler that will be, because it's multi-sense, becomes at least more than just you're watching people act and it's cool and whatever. No, they're trying to make the most out of that experience. The lighting effects, absolutely brilliant. Again, that's where the editing comes into, where obviously that's where they won an Oscar, but it comes in, where everything, that constraint of budget. So it's interesting in today's world because technology exists and truly the sky's the limit as far as how much time you kind of want to put into something. Obviously time is money, so if you're paying someone to do this, it's expensive, but if you have the capabilities of doing whatever you want and you have access to this technology, which is relatively accessible, you can almost do whatever you want. Now the problem is doing whatever you want. I've touched on this for those of you who are Bigmark podcast fans. I've touched on this a lot of times on other episodes, that with this technology that we have access to and this power, the possibilities are limitless. And it leaves us with this moment where when we're about to create something, or we're about to make a creative decision about something, we know that those possibilities can go anywhere. It can become paralyzing, and or we tend to choose the easiest pathway because why not? And that doesn't always lend itself to better stuff. Like, again, just look around, some of the greatest music, some of the greatest movies, television shows, whatever, all this stuff came out and exists well before technology, books and things, whatever it might be, existed before all these technological leaps. Yes, there's still great things that happen and we make amazing things, but the idea was, when all this technology, digital and computer software and internet and all these technologies arose, we imagined that, wow, look at all these amazing things we've done up until this point with limited technology. Now that we have limitless technology, we should be able to make amazing things constantly, nothing but brilliance and beauty constantly, just overarching yourself constantly. But basically what's happened is we've just muddied the sea of mediocrity, and here and there's some beautiful things that come up. Now, this movie is one of those beautiful things that come up, I will say. But back in the day, when you were constrained by things, what I'm saying with this limited capacity, and the only way you can really put a limit on things nowadays is with budget. But back in the day when technology limited you, you had to work within these parameters, and you knew where the boundaries were. You knew how far you had to go. You knew how far you could go, and you wanted to push that envelope and use the technology. And it was not almost never easy. Yeah, maybe there's some easy options or time saving options, but it was almost never easy to do all those things. And yeah, that's what drove all this creation and why we have all these new inventions, because that stuff was hard and we wanted to make it easier because that's just human, nature. But again, I think with these constraints in budget and the way that the Daniels approached everything, it was just a perfect confluence of everything. The action is terrific. And they did it in a cool fashion. They presented it in actually 3 parts, every part 1 being everything to everywhere, and 3 being all at once. And they're not all equal parts, but they're very cool act breaks, and just very, 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 very cool movie. Really well done. In some points, that like most of the characters are Chinese, and the family, like the main character's family, are Chinese, and they switch effortlessly from Mandarin to English through the movie, and there's subtitles and things like that. But I think it's beautiful, and it's really well done, and it's not hokey and weird and like, oh, you have to do this and they have to be speaking, and like, it's a cool kind of realistic approach, because coming from a family where some of my family members, English wasn't their first language, that's what you do when you speak 2 languages. You switch between them every once in a while, for no fucking real reason, to be honest. I mean, other than the big reasons being like, you don't want English people to hear or English speaking people to hear what you have to say, or you're speaking to someone who doesn't really speak the language that well. Either way, it was very realistic and very cool, and potentially, who knows, the future, right? Like, if that keeps going and we start seeing more influence come out of China, maybe more people will start speaking Mandarin, and that'll be the reality. You have that switch, which, could be cool or wild, who knows. But again, more the nitty gritty of the plot itself, it essentially surrounds, the whole movie surrounds this family, that they, in this original. So the idea is that, I guess the overarching idea, I have to get into this a little bit, is that there are multiverses. They also refer to them as many verses in this, but there's infinite amount of universes out there, and these different, the way that the filmmakers kind of approach it is that each universe exists because at one point in someone, in the infinite you, at some point when when you were, like, since the moment you were born, every moment, from every decision that's being made, every little thing that happens in your life creates a probability that things went one way or another, and that creates a new branch on the timeline. So they're life paths, if you can think about that. And every decision, as minute as you could possibly think, actually creates a different timeline. So very similar to life, in the sense that you make a decision and it compounds and it goes down the road, and it can drastically change your life depending on which way you go. I always thought that was a really cool concept, especially in this movie, because I've still haven't come up with the perfect replication of this idea, but I can't even say the word. But again, I talked about this a long time ago, and I thought about it a lot in like high school days. I remember thinking about it a lot, and I kind of got away from it for a while, but the idea of choice, that our life, life is based on choice, and the choices that you make are everything, and that's who, you have to live with those choices, and you have to be who you choose. And again, like I said, it's rudimentary still at best, and I've been thinking about it for so long, but it comes down to that no matter what, and like Resh said, even if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. So everything you do is a choice. And basically what the filmmakers here are touching on is that every choice that you've made, every decision that you've come, and the choice to go with either decision, your life splits at that point, and one decision goes one way and the other decision goes the other way. Essentially in the movie, the one of the families they call it the Alphaverse, so the universe that actually discovered all these other universes. Their family actually pushed their daughter Joy, so Wayman and Evelyn, their daughter Joy, they pushed her too hard, and her mind like fractured, and she experiences the entire universe, every single multiverse at once, and she became this mythical character called the Jobu Tapaki, which actually means pocket gun, which is interesting because when she first comes on the screen, you can't see her face, but she like holds out a gun, and it might even be a Run the Jewels nod. But again, honestly, this movie is so full of references, you can't even start. And anyway, she's omniversal, so she experiences every universe and she can switch at random. And this alpha universe actually created an algorithm that allows you to travel between or experience other versions of you in the other multiverses. So the alpha universe created an algorithm that calculates which improbable action will place your universe on the edge of your local cluster, which then slingshots you to your desired universe. So if you want to travel to a certain universe, you have to do some kind of weird action and choose to do this action. And that's the essence. That's the choice that puts you in a position to then experience this whole new realm, this whole new universe, but it's still you, but you experience all their memories and you basically gain like their powers. So it's it's almost like very Matrixy in that sense, where you essentially can like pick another universe, or like Rick and Morty-ish, or a little bit like any fucking multi-universe shtick really, but you get to you can hijack that person's powers. You basically like swap positions with them in the multiverse, which is amazing. And at one point, and again, this goes back to that whole notion of nostalgia and all the nods and everything towards that, is that at one point, Jamie Lee Curtis, Deirdre, her character, gets hijacked by Jobu Tapaki, the evil villain, and she actually like hijacks like I guess an adjacent universe to her, where she was a professional wrestler, and like she's like doing like full on like Ultimate Warrior moves. She pulls out a backbreaker at one point on Wayman. Just amazing, really cool. Maybe deserved of Best Supporting Actress, but again, not in my humble opinion. But God bless. Congratulations, Jamie Lee. And again, it kind of, there's themes that are so amazing. There's a absolutely beautiful mother-daughter relationship between Joy and Evelyn, which embodies every parent and child relationship. And there's even moments where Evelyn is dealing with her father, and times are changing, and her own dreams and aspirations maybe not coming true, because in her own universe, she basically hasn't achieved any of the things that she ever wanted to do. And in every single one of these other universes, she has achieved one of those things, right? So again, based on probability, all these other universes, she does become what she wants. There's obviously a universe where she doesn't become anything, which is the universe that she exists in, and her and Wayman are chilling. They run a a laundromat that appears to be failing, and they're doing their taxes, and she's trying and you can tell that she's tried all these different things and just not made it because of some decision along the way. But the movie always kind of points to a really interesting, like, grass is always greener scenario, where you might wish for this other thing, because at one point Evelyn is in another universe where she becomes a movie star, which is so cool, because obviously Michelle Yeoh is a movie star, and they kind of intertwine some like real footage of her on the red carpet and things like that into that universe. And Wayman is like a CEO and like a baller, but they aren't together. And they end up getting together, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to ruin that part of it, but at one point, she's talking about, you don't know, like, I came from a universe where all we did was do laundry and taxes, and it was boring, and we didn't, we were worried about our daughter and my father and life and everything. And CEO Wayman, which is funny how that's like what they call him, but CEO Wayman goes, if in another life, if we had another chance, I wouldn't mind just doing laundry and taxes with you. And it's such a beautiful scene. And there's so many beautiful scenes. There's a scene where they go through all these different, they seemingly go through every single iteration of every multiverse, and they wind up, Evelyn and Joy get into this ultimate fight near the end, where they end up traveling through every multiverse. And at the one that they stop on is just a universe where no life ever formed. Everything was a rock, and they were both rocks, and they could talk to each other, and telepathically, more or less. And again, just such a beautiful scene, because it touches on the futility of this idea that there's just all these universes, that even in as much at one point we thought that Earth was the center of the universe and there was nothing more, but then we discovered that we just rotated the sun, which is one of trillions in the known universe, and that right now there might be multiple universes that we don't even know about. And what's going to be the next discovery that just proves that we're just tiny pieces of shit? And again, it's that futile, nihilistic, kind of terrible approach of nothing matters, because everything is so infinite that the trials and tribulations and the bullshit that we go through, and the little things and the relationships and the lives and the hate and the passion and the love and the happiness and the everything, and all this stuff is minuscule and infinitely small compared to this giant universe. But if anything tells us that life is cyclical, that the universe is a cycle, everything is a circle, that if nothing matters, at the same time, everything matters. Right? You have to go fully into it and realize that, yes, nothing matters, but simultaneously everything matters. And the entire universe versus us becomes this interesting cycle, right? It's fractal. If you can keep going in, inner space is infinite, outer space is infinite. And we exist right in that pinnacle, that moment where both things meet. And the really, really, truly beautiful thing about this film, with all that, and, at one point, Jobu Tapaki's Joy's character comes up with this thing called the everything bagel. And essentially she put all of her woes, all of these multiple universes, everything, and sesame seed and salt, and it collapsed in on itself and became this everything bagel, which was practically like a black hole that could kind of swallow up and potentially like end her kind of existence in this like omnipresent state, which was relatively painful, it seemed. But it was the embodiment again of that negative approach that everything is just black and everything turns in on itself at the end of it. But the back end of that again is love. You know, what is the opposite of hate and grief, and what is that? You know, what is grief but only a lack of a place to aim your love? Like I heard about that, right? Like that grief is actually just love with nowhere to go, and you're just like pent up, and you just feel. But realize that love means nothing unless you let it out, unless you send it somewhere, and it doesn't matter who gets it, because we are all one. We are all existing in this thing together. That you're lighting someone else's candle doesn't diminish your own light. And again, the power of love is so special, and Wayman becomes this embodiment of that. And throughout the movie, you kind of think that he's just like kind of this bumbling idiot, but in essence, he says, this is how he fights. This is how I fight, is what he says. In the sense that, yeah, it looks like I'm weak or, whatever, but it takes a lot of strength and courage to be able to look fear and look anger and hatred or negative experiences, look it right dead in the face and smile and say, I love you, or stick a googly eye on it, or, just kill it with kindness. And there's a scene where Evelyn is fighting Jobu, and it's a very classic, very like anime-ish, very classic showdown kung fu movie square up, where Jobu Tabaki does this unreal fucking kata, whatever you want to call it, where she gets down and she gets in her fucking stance and she's like, what? You know what I'm saying? And Evelyn's character does her thing too, and then she just comes in and she just fucking opens up with a hug, and it's like, holy fucking shit. If that, like, it touched me in the deepest center of my being, where I've experienced this a lot in life, where I've been told not aggressive enough, especially in sports or things like that, but even just wherever, where it's like, you just let life flow, you just react to things. But that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to lead with love, and I struggle with it too. I feel like I'm being a fucking weak coward sometimes too, but when I lead with love and I put that out there and I put my heart out there and try to understand where someone's coming from, or understand that, again, the only way to the opposite of darkness is love. You know what I mean? It's not it's not like, the opposite of hate isn't, well, I guess opposite of hate is love. But again, like I said, love needs to go somewhere. It needs to be aimed. It needs to be directed. And the opposite of grief is love. And the opposite of all that is, you can't hold on to grudges. You can't hold on to things, and you can't, live a life where all you're doing is hoping for something to make you happy because you're just mad all the time. But realize that love and that happiness and that, and everything too, because hate and passion and anger is wrapped up in that too, because there is that love where it gets fucking out there and it gets wild, but it moves mountains, and it beats all, and it is accepting, and it will only, and it can transform that hate and that negativity into something new. It's not destructive where it wants to destroy. It wants to bring both of those things together. And I remember having a fight with one of my bands that I was in, and we were actually talking about like having a bit of a split off from some of the other band members, and we were having these talks and getting together and trying to figure out how we're going to do it. And one night, some of my band members kind of called me up and said, listen, we're doing it. We don't give a fuck. It has to be done. We're telling them to fuck off, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, listen, we haven't even done anything. We've just thought about this shit. Like, let's just fucking find a way that we can try and lead with love in this situation and they said, fuck it. And I got upset and I was like, I will never not fight for love and for respect and for a peaceful approach. And again, that's how I fight. And that's why this movie touched me so much in that deep, deep place in my heart. And I hope a piece of this reaches all of you out there who's listening and watching. I love you all. Thank you all for listening. Again, wherever you're watching, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications, all that great stuff. If you want to reach us, check us out on Twitter or Instagram at Bigmark Podcast or the Bigmark Pod. Hit us up in our DMs there. If you want to support the podcast, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/the Bigmark Pod. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe wherever you're watching, and tell a friend. Thank you so much for watching. Check this movie out, please. It's so great. Congratulations to everyone involved in the film. And yeah, spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Peace.